Con, con, ha.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode back now that we are your screen jockeys. I'm Chris, and with me as always is Justin. And today we've got a fun episode, but first we're going to let you know what the new channel, why we rebranded, and what's going on. Justin, I'm going to leave it to you since you're the one that actually came up with the brilliant idea of screen jockeys. And I think, people just want to know, what is it that we're going to be rebranding to? Guys, just so you know, we're just kind of moving away from the podcast format only and going to start delivering more videos. But Justin, where did that name come from? Because I thought it was brilliant.
Well, thanks. So when I was explaining to my 7-year-old what a disc jockey was, and then that turned into what a video jockey was, and since those have already been used, we couldn't do that. And you and I, so originally we could not decide what we wanted to call the channel, because we were bringing two very different points of view to this situation. And we quickly realized that if we just kept discussing what it should be, we would never get anything done.
So back to the podcast was like our little placeholder, if you will.
So let's have a placeholder so that we don't get in our own way, and let's just pick something now and figure it out, and then we'll come back around to it. So we always knew that we were going to rebrand once we kind of, figured out what our shtick was. And so this summer, we took the summer, like a lot of people do, a lot of creators, and we decided to, work out who we are. And like I said, I was explaining to my 7-year-old what a disc jockey was, and then talked about what a video jockey was, and then it just developed into screen jockey, because everything's just different screens now. It's not film, it's not video, it's all just digital. It's all digital.
And that gave me the opportunity to finally introduce talking about video games, which I'm super passionate about. So we're deciding that we're going to just talk about everything from film to streaming to video games, and we might even start growing the channel. You might see even some new faces around here soon, which is very exciting.
And you might see a Screen Jockeys Formula One channel.
Ooh, yeah, because I know he really enjoys racing. So this is just giving us a bigger platform. So once again, big thank you to what I keep calling our early supporters. I mean, the people that have really been with us for the last year and a half. Big thank you, because we did finally hit our 1,000 subscriber milestone, which is a big win, and we're still growing more numbers as we speak, which is great to see. So guys, we're going to be bringing you some top 10 lists. We're going to start talking about what we've been seeing in the theater. Justin's already been laying down the hammer with some great video work. And today what we get a chance to do is talk about Smile, which is a film that I found a few years back, right after it came out on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever we're calling, like once it left the theater and we were able to stream it. Right?
It's coming out on digital.
I did check it out and I really enjoyed it. And so I finally got a chance to introduce it to Justin. He sat down and watched it, because Smile 2 will be hitting theaters here in the very coming weeks, depending on obviously when you're watching this video.
October 18th is when it comes out.
I figured today we get a chance to just kind of take a moment to talk about a film that I think really kind of moved me. Not necessarily the scariest thing I had ever seen, but from someone that obviously loves filmmaking, loves good script work, loves good cinematography. This movie really does a lot of stuff. And then to find out it was some very new filmmaker that had put this movie together. He made a short, what was it called? Laura Hasn't Slept. And the director is Parker Finn. So he wrote and directed it. And I guess after that short, this would be his sophomore attempt. But when I looked him up on IMDb, this is his first motion picture, major motion picture to direct and have come out. So the fact that he's also involved in this sequel kind of got me excited. So the big thing for me is obviously I'm going to sit here, I'm going to praise over it, but I want to know immediately, Justin, you sat down, you watched it. Horror is not your genre, and I know that. So I'm very interested just to really get your first reaction. So before you dive too deep in, did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you mad at me for even suggesting it? That's what I want to know.
Oh, no. And so
good.
I'm not mad at all.
Good. Okay.
So no, I did enjoy it. And horror isn't my genre only in the way that I don't seek out horror. I wait for horror to come
there are those
me.
hardcore people that really, they just want to go see it. Doesn't matter if it's like that schlocky horror, body horror. They just love that genre. But I know for you, it can be very iffy. I mean, I'm picky about my horror too, but I can definitely find a lot more fun within the genre. And I know that it's a little iffy. So suggesting a horror movie was,
I usually just wait. Yeah, I usually wait until more than one person recommends something. Like if someone said, and you're not the first. Yeah. And so when you said it, it was like, okay, that's 2. All right, I'll give it a shot. If 2 separate people Or it
Nice.
came upon my radar that it was worth watching. And then when you said you should watch this and Smile
Right
Tears
on.
coming
And
out, I
I'm
went,
glad we
okay,
were
cool.
able to do that.
Let's
So we're
check
going
it
to
out.
keep it a little topical, but also explore this movie, which I think is directed really well. I believe the cinematography is just spot on. And then when the horror kicks in, it's kind of intense. So what'd you think? I mean, did it give you any chills or thrills whatsoever? Or
Well, actually, I wanted to bring that up because I made a note. I actually listened to it on my headphones because my wife does not do horror at all. And so I watched it in my office, headphones. I mean, big monitor, but still, like I had it on my headphones, which is sometimes good because these are really nice headphones. So you get, a wide range of sounds that are right there. And I swear that they are futzing with the frequencies or something. And you can, do you know much about this? You're an audio guy where you can I swear something kicked in and I wasn't even scared of what was going on, but it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I swear there's the editor in me. It was like, there's an audio cue there. Like they just did something with that audio that made the hairs on my back of my neck stand up. And I wonder if there's like a frequency, you know what I mean, that you can get in there and play with tones and frequency on that level.
maybe. I feel like he was playing with many levels. I mean, if you notice the color grade change, the color palettes that he was choosing, I feel like he was kind of like this felt like something that like I just got fresh out of film school and I know all of these cool tricks and haven't been jaded by the industry or done one thing.
It was very well, and so he made a short
Which
film,
I haven't
right?
seen. Did you look it up?
Obviously
Okay.
did well. No, but it obviously did well enough for someone or a group of people said, okay, that was a nice short. Now let's pony up and make something real. And this is the real one. And so it definitely felt like a short film drawn into a feature film or, expanded into a feature film. And it felt so familiar to me because I have a short film that we're going to be putting out on the channel called
I can't wait to see it.
that I made in 2011 before anyone really knew what gaslighting someone meant, which is funny. It didn't really come into vogue until about 4 or 5 years later, because when I made it, I would say it's called gaslight and people would say,
Vogue.
What does that mean? Now you tell someone it means, gaslight.
Yeah,
right. They know what that means, right? It's more in common terminology now, but it was not over 10 years ago. So my idea was that there isn't someone gaslighting someone, it's something is gaslighting people, and it's an entity, and it went from person to person.
Sounds
and
fun.
It got passed along, just like in this. Except it wasn't a smile. We represented it differently, but they just took the same idea of an entity going from person to person. And
right
kind
on.
Of,
well, I can't wait for you to drop it on the channel.
They came up with
rules. And what's the other one that we put on there? The other movie that you did the short, Uninvited, is also on the channel.
We need to drop that.
So
link
guys,
as well.
maybe we'll post a little thing in one of these corners right here. Check out one of the short films Justin made, which could be great for the spooky season because it's another kind of horror film. You seem to, for someone that doesn't like horror,
and so is
you seem
Gaslight.
to make a lot of it. That's funny.
Well, what did they say? Like the
horror,
two easiest are comedy and horror. That's why, we all start with that. And like what the short film I just wrote is a horror comedy. I mean, it's because that's what we can make. And it's the most kind of creative you can do on a budget. Like you can't do period pieces very well on a budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all boils down to money. And so comedy and horror are the cheapest to make.
Yeah, well, this one, this is why I like this movie because there's a lot of creativity going into it, and this one is definitely less about the jump scares.
There's lots
in
of
this
tricks.
one, and way more about building tension.
It is all about the jump scares.
Are you serious?
I completely disagree. It starts. The title card is a jump scare, which made me laugh so hard.
I don't know. It was
card,
slow. The jump scares aren't everywhere, and.
Really? And when I read into it, I heard it was criticized for its jump scares, for relying on the jump scares. Right. So I'm in that camp that I think they relied on the jump scares. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but they totally leaned into the jump scares. Also, too, the other one, my other critique was to fill in time, and this is one of those things when you're taking a short film and making it into a feature film. Sometimes you gotta fill in scenes, you know what I mean? You gotta have some filler. And I call it the visions. So the problem with the visions scenes where there's like some horrific event and then they wake up, or it's just a vision or something like that. I feel like it's cheap because, I mean, yeah, that looked neat, but then there was zero consequences.
I could see that. I get what you're saying with that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what would be badass is if, like, when she pulls out the steak knife and starts, you know, when she thinks she has to kill him or whatever, and starts stabbing him, and that was the plot of the movie. Yeah. Now that's fucked up.
I was really happy when I saw that, and then he ripped off his face. I was like, it's a dream. And then she woke up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. And you know, it's just one of those, like, there's a part of me that thinks it's like, oh no, that's so unsatisfying. It's cheap. It's filler. You're trying to make a short thing longer, and that's one of those things that can come from it. But these are just, you know, my issues. I thought some of the things were great. My favorite part,
do tell,
when that kid pulled out the dead cat from the box, I lost my shit. I was like, touchdown. That is proper
the
fucked up.
animation of the cat. I don't know how well you were looking at it, but it's so fake. It bothers me to no end that I'm like, yeah, because they didn't put a dead cat in a child actor's hand, so they actually CG'd a dead cat. If you look at it, the clipping is pretty bad on his hand. It's pretty apparent.
Is it? Oh no! Oh, because they can't do that with the kid.
So he obviously had to pull up an object, and I was like, man, they could have just cheated it really well over his shoulder, and then she could have reached down and grabbed.
And that's the thing, is you can get away with it. Most people won't notice it because
it was a pretty laughable moment, honestly, when we were watching it again. I was like, oh my God, it's so fake.
Well, I laughed, but it was like, that's a great idea. Like how, as a father of a 7-year-old, like that is trauma city. And it wasn't fake, though. It actually happened in the movie. That's more interesting than that.
It did happen. And then she really did see an entity that wasn't there, so no one else could see it. And then she fell through that, you know, table, and that really happened. And
I like the things that actually happen, not the
right
things that someone imagined happens.
That makes complete sense. No, right. I feel like it's lazy writing sometimes when they're like, well, it was just a dream. And it's like, well, because you didn't know how to finish that ending, you know?
It's filler. See, I don't think it's really lazy. It's more of like filler. It's like, shit, I got to write I got 10 pages. I got 10 more pages. How do I write in some scares?
Well, like you said, I mean, filler, lazy, whatever you want to call it. Potato. We're saying the same thing here for sure. So then you just shared what you really liked then. So does this movie fall into a category of I enjoyed this, I want to see this again, or at least I'm glad I saw it, but that's not my flavor, not my cup of tea? Like, how did it really like fall on a scale? Do you have a scale of horror movies that you like to rewatch?
No, I don't. I thought it was interesting, and I'm glad you showed it to me. You know what I mean? I really liked the nurse who says, I'm single, when he was like, when she walks away from him at work. And it pans over to one of the nurses behind the counter and to the ex, not the current boyfriend, but the cop, like ex-husband. And she goes, she's like, I'm single. I thought that was a great line. There were moments, you know what I mean? Like, but that's what builds up to a movie to me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to laugh and be engaged.
Right.
And in moments, I think horror needs.
It's been a couple years, guys, so I think we're gonna have to just step into spoiler territory, because I mean, we're obviously talking about the dream sequence that's happening mid to late movie, but then what about the false ending? I'm sorry, we're gonna have to step in. But warning. But the false ending, obviously, then the color grade goes from the saturation to fully vibrant again, and you think she's won and gotten away when she's really just running out the front door of the cabin for the second time. What'd you think about that little fake out? You know what I mean? And then they really do end the movie, and it ends pretty poorly. So what did you think of the ending? Like, at least, did you think that it all paid off for the story, or?
I don't know. What do you, no, let me ask you, what did you think?
Well, I love it. That's why it's like, you know, that may be a very amateur film, and there may be slow pacing, and like you said, some, you know, cheap cop outs with the dream sequence thing that where something doesn't happen, there's no consequence. But then we snap out of the dream sequence to then face the reality and consequences
of what's actually going on.
And what happens? She ends up smiling, murdering herself, and looking over at her ex-boyfriend.
But what's funny is like my short film ends the same way, just for my storyline. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it ends with the person going mad. They go mad. They don't kill themselves. They just go mad. So the person's going mad, and then his wife leaves, and then the entity starts following her, and then that's how it goes. So it will continue on just like this one. So all of the beats felt very familiar to me because I had also made a similar sort of story. So that's why it was one of those, like, I thought it was interesting to watch someone else come up with something that was similar tonally in so many different ways, just different plot devices, like the smile, as opposed to we had a dog following someone, because we talked a lot about what represents this entity. You know what I mean? You got to have some sort of representation, and they took the device of a smile, which is good because it's the opposite of a frown, and it's fucked up looking.
Now we can cut back in and say, if you guys wanted to skip ahead and get into spoiler free territory, now I don't think we're going to be spoiling anything. But yeah, the smile, I think, obviously goes to the underlying theme of trauma. Right? Isn't
passing
that what
along
we're really
generational trauma
about here?
too?
Is people absolutely. So smiling through, grinning through the trauma, right? That's where I feel like the smile came from. And I'm like, you know what? This works. Horror is not the easiest thing to write for, especially when we've seen so many things. It's like everything feels like it can come too close to something else that already
and even
exists.
that stuff was already copying stuff that came before it and came before it and came before it. No, I don't mean this movie in particular. I just mean in the context of originality.
Absolutely.
There isn't anything original, and especially now when we can get everyone's point of view on YouTube or something like that, like we're doing, then it's even more difficult to be original. And, that's something that we need to think about.
But I like that it had more of like this cool underlying theme. Like there was actually something else going on with the story. There was a little bit of layers to it rather than just being a scary thing chasing after these people and they must survive. And I really enjoy a sad ending too.
Yeah, I like a tragic ending. I don't want it to end pretty.
Yeah, I do tend to lean towards those, especially in horror. True horror shouldn't have happy endings, in my opinion. So now, am I happy to see a sequel? I'm not really even sure if it needed it. I kind of liked where it left it, and it could have stood tall on its own. Now, what I do see from the sequel that's coming out, it's by the same writer director, so at least it's his thing. It looks like it might obviously have a bigger budget because I think they found success with the first one, hence why there's even a sequel at all. So, but sequels,
so no one expected it to do well, and then they took it to test screenings, and the audience really responded to it, and the studio was like, holy shit, we got a hit. Let's put it out there.
And I mean, that's rare nowadays. But you can tell this one is definitely a lower budget. I mean, they there's not a lot of stunt work.
You got 17 before. We'll give you 25 or 30 this time. Sort of thing to make a sequel. So we probably had time to flesh out maybe the lore a bit more of, like instead of filler, if you're designing it from scratch to be a full thing on its own, it might be easier for him to do that in a sequel as opposed to stretching a short film into that full first film. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so he's going to come into the second one going, okay, I got to fill all this shit out, like with proper stuff instead of, like
that's usually
popcorn.
What a sequel's for, right? It's like, hey, we got a success, and now it's like, let's make this lore richer, let's make it bigger, and let's make the kills more gory.
Just go straight into the scares and like, fuck the lore.
And then it's nothing.
Death!
So, I mean, sequels obviously suffer from sequelitis, so, I'm generally not excited about them either. But I think there's always still an optimism. Like, hey, I enjoyed the first one. This is being handled by the same person. It's their vision again. There's a chance, right?
Sure. Yeah.
In the horror world, it's like, it's really rocky with sequels, right? Because they're obviously low budget. They're obviously just trying to crank out, hey, we got something scary enough in the first one, so let's do a sequel. So
let's make Jason Takes Manhattan, right? Yeah, I would like to see what this person does more. I saw a lot of what he was doing. You know what I mean? Like it felt like I was watching a movie made by a peer, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's why I can kind of root for the movie. Yeah.
Like watching it going like, I know I can feel like I'm on set here making this movie with them. I can see how they made all of these choices, how they got to all of these things, and only because I feel like, you know, we're on a similar sort of, you know, we're pulling from a similar sort of playbook. And so I liked seeing that, and I saw a lot of potential in that movie. I guess that's what I saw in it. It's not that I loved it, and it's not that I even want to see a sequel. In fact, I want to see what he does that isn't Smile.
Exactly. Hopefully he gets a good, you know, chance at the sequel.
So if he pulls out a good sequel, okay, then let's switch gears and go into something else and see what you got. That's kind of where
I think
I'm
I
at.
completely agree with you on that. And I hate that we're just in agreement, but I was seeing a film that I could understand. So, I mean, I know it's not the greatest horror movie of all time, but it's always fun to just see something a little fresh. Obviously, someone trying something original. There's definitely more positive than there is negative to say about this film. If you and I had sat down and this is the horror movie we came up with, I'd be very proud with what was delivered at the end.
I'm so glad you said that, because I literally said that to Lindsay. Like, that's how I'm gonna tie this up in a bow, is I said, like, if we had made this movie, I'd be pretty fucking proud with it. I would recognize all of its flaws and what we could do better next time. You know what I mean? I would take those and learn from them. But on a whole, I know how hard it is to get anything made, even an easy low budget one, especially one, because you don't have any capital to like get people to do shit. So you gotta, you know, beg, borrow, and steal. It's really hard. So the fact that he got it made and it was good enough to get a sequel, like,
way to go,
all
Parker
right, man.
Finn. Right, here we go. Little golf clap for Parker.
Golf clap. His feature that he has made is better than the feature I have not made.
Have you guys seen Smile? I mean, are you even excited for the sequel? What did you even think of the original? Should we never recommended it to anyone whatsoever? Or is it also a personal favorite of yours because you like independent filmmaking like that? I mean, that's definitely what I'm seeing in that movie. So keep your eyes peeled. We're also going to have a nice little trailer react. I'm going to make Justin, he does not like watching trailers because he doesn't like spoiling movies, but I'm going to make him watch the trailer for Smile 2 and see if that gets him excited as well. So keep an eye out for that video. And Justin, your screen jockey, Justin, over there, me over here, say thank you so much for tuning in. We've got plenty more in store for you. And we really appreciate you guys for stopping by. See you next time.